الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Umar radiallahu anhu used to supplicate, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba wa la taj'alhu multabisan alayna fanadil. O Allah, show us the truth as it is and give us the ability to follow it. Show us the truth as it is in its most organic, most raw form, and give us the ability to follow it. And show us falsehood as it is, without it being beautified for us. Show us falsehood as it is, and give us the ability to stay away from it. And do not make it multabisan, do not make it something that we confuse with truth so that we follow it and go astray. One of the things the Prophet ﷺ, he tried to teach us as an ummah is how to see the world for what it was. One of the things the Prophet ﷺ tried to do for us is to show us the world as it is. He was a man who did not live in the fantasy of this dunya. He said, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib aw 'abir as-sabil." Be in this world as if you are a traveler or just someone who is just passing through. He saw this dunya, he saw this world as it was. And unfortunately for many of us, we don't get to that point until we are well into our late ages. We become elderly people and then we divorce the world because we realize what it is. But in our youthfulness, many times we get lost in the world because we can't see it for what it is. And while still having hope for a favorable outcome and seeing the world for what it is, but still being hopeful, all right, for a favorable outcome. I can't necessarily predict, what Islam is going to look like for Muslims in America in the future. But what I can share with you all is the transition of Islam from being a second-class religion to a first-class phenomenon. Islam is not going anywhere, and the rest of the world has to get comfortable. Islam is not going anywhere, and the rest of the world has to get comfortable with that, including Muslims who would like to see Islam watered down. But it's not going anywhere. So let's look at some of what the Prophet ﷺ taught us about what would happen to this ummah in the latter times. How Islam went from being a second-class religion to a first-class phenomenon. And then that would allow us to decide what side of history we end up on. Islam is a system that has gone through and will continue to go through many transitionary phases, many different stages and phases that it has gone through. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Bada al-Islamu ghariban wa sayaudu kama bada'a ghariban fatuba lil-ghuraba." Qila ya Rasulullah, man hum al-ghuraba? فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هم أناس صالحون قليل في أناس السوء كثير. He said that Islam started off strange, alien. The Prophet ﷺ emerged with La ilaha illallah, something people had never heard before. He emerged with a message, with a concept, not a religion, a concept. Because no matter how many Muslims die, executed, put in prison, This concept, La ilaha illallah, nothing worthy of worship except God alone, it's a concept. You can't kill a concept. You can't kill a concept. As the scholars, they say, لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ وَارِثٍ, that for every people there will be someone to inherit their ideas, their ideologies, their concepts. You can't kill that. He said, but Islam started off something strange and alien, and it will return to being strange and alien. So give glad tidings to the strangers. Now, usually when we hear this hadith, we don't think about the implications of this hadith. What this hadith is pointing to. He said Islam started off as being strange, alien, gharib. And then it will go through a process where it will return back to being the same way. So give glad tidings. What is he referring to? What are the implications of this comment, this statement of the Prophet ﷺ that Islam will go from being one, it starts off one way, and it will go through a phase until it turns back around to becoming the same way. When he said it will be returned to being strange, he's not talking about strange amongst non-Muslims. He said, وَسَيَّعُودُ كَمَا بَدَأَ غَرِيبًا. It will return to being strange again, not to non-Muslims, to Muslims. He said, فَتُوبَ لِلْغُرَبَى. Glad tidings for the ghuraba, the strangers. So the Sahaba, as the Prophet ﷺ always did, he would use phrases, terms, that although in the Arabic language, the context is everything. السياق مهم جدا في فهم الكلام لابد أن تعلم سياق الكلام. You have to understand the context and what the person is saying. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَتَدْرُونَ مَا الْمُفْلِسِ. Do you know who the bankrupt person is? And we all know what a person who doesn't have any money, we know what that means. The Sahaba said, "Man la dinara lahu wa la dirham." A person who has no money, has no dinar, no dirham. The Prophet ﷺ said, no. Because there's a different context. Siyaq al-kalam. He said, "Al-muflis fina man salla wa sama wa jahada fi sabilillah. Lakin yati yawm al-qiyamah wa qad ضرب هذا وسفك دم هذا وأخذ مال هذا. فأخذ هذا من حسناته وهذا من حسناته حتى إذا فنيت حسناته. هذا هو المفلس." He said, but the bankrupt person is the person who he fasted, he prayed, he fought fi sabilillah, he gave sadaqah, did all righteous deeds. But in addition to that, he took the money of this person, he struck this person, he spilled the blood of this person, he backbit this person, and all of those people that he wronged in this life will come back for those things Yawm al-Qiyamah. So this person will take from his good deeds, this person will take from his good deeds, this person will take from his good deeds, until he runs out of good deeds. حَتَّى إِذَا فَنِيَتْ حَسَنَاتُهُ. He has no more good deeds. And here is the muflis. Here is the bankrupt person. A person who done a lot of good in this life and then comes on the day of judgment and believe that he has mountains of hasanat when in fact he has nothing. That is the broke person. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would use words, phrases, knowing that the Sahaba, although speaking Arabic, they knew what the word meant, but they didn't understand the context. Words mean nothing without context. So they asked the Prophet ﷺ, "Man hum al-ghuraba?" Who are the strangers? And the Prophet ﷺ, his response was, "Hum unasun salihun." They are righteous people, qalil, that are only few. Fi unas as-su kathir. Amongst evil people that are many. Small group of people who are righteous, God conscious, amongst a larger group of people who are not. This was the filtering process that will separate as the Prophet ﷺ is talking about, that Islam is going to be the filtering process that separates those of us who want to be close to God from those of us who just say with our tongues what is not in our hearts. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ya man amana bilisanihi wa lam yu'min biqalbihi." O you who believe with your tongues, but you don't believe with your hearts. La taghtabu al-muslimin. Don't backbite the Muslims. Don't backbite Muslims. O you who believe with your tongue, but you don't believe with your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب وما كان الله ليطلعكم على الغيب ولكن الله يجتبي من رسله من يشاء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He will not leave the Muslims, the believers, in this current state that they are in, حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب, until He distinguishes those who are good from those who are not good. Islam is the filter. And no matter how much you try to reinterpret Islam, you try to, revamp the religion to make it fit your desires, eventually you end up exposing yourself, because Islam will always remain Islam. Yabqa al-Islam Islam. Islam will always remain as it is, unchanged. No matter how many years pass, no matter how many generations go by, you always find people who live in a time where Islam is prevalent and they try to change the religion to fit their desires. And they only end up exposing who they really are, because you can't change this system. This is a system put in place by God. You can't change this. And there will always remain a group of people steadfast on the truth. لا يزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق لا يضرهم من خذلهم ولا من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم كذلك. The Prophet ﷺ said that there will always remain a group of people, ظاهرين على الحق, open and apparent on the truth. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. They will not be harmed by those who forsake them. ولا من خالفهم, nor those who go against them. Who is referring to? Muslims. It's not referring to non-Muslims. The reference here is to those who will oppose Islam from within the ranks of Muslims. They will not be harmed by those who forsake them, those who abandon them, nor those who go against them. And they will remain like that until the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. So Islam, going from being strange to being a world phenomenon, and then back to being strange again, is a process that we are right in the middle of right now. We can see the Muslim world changing very quickly. We can see changes being made in the Muslim world. Sides, people are choosing their sides. The side of history that they are going to end up on. And Islam will continue to disappear in its most pristine form. It will begin to disappear from the eyes of the public, just like the garment, the fabric on a garment begins to wear and tear. To years from now, we'll be hard pressed to find someone who is really a practicing Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, يدرس الإسلام كما يدرس وشي الثوب حتى لا يدرى ما الصيام ولا الصلاة ولا نسك ولا صدقة ولا يسرى على كتاب الله سبحانه وتعالى في ليلة فلا يبقى في الأرض منه آية وتبقى طوائف من الناس الشيخ الكبير والعجوز يقولون أدركنا آباءنا على هذه الكلمة، يعني لا إله إلا الله، كلمة باقية. أدركنا آباءنا على هذه الكلمة لا إله إلا الله فنحن نقولها. And this hadith was collected in the Sunnah of Ibn Majah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, يدرس الإسلام كما يدرس وشي الثوب, that Islam will begin to disappear little by little, shay'an for shay'an, just like the fabric of a garment begins to wear and tear. You have a garment, you wash it over and over and over, and after the years go by, the fabric starts to get thin, starts to get brittle, and then a hole tears in it. That is exactly what is going to happen to Islam. The practice of Islam, that it will begin to disappear little by little by little, shay'an for shay'an. Just like the fabric on a garment begins to wear and tear to eventually disappear. He said, حَتَّى لَا يُضْرَ مَا صِيَامْ وَلَا الصَّلَاةِ وَلَا نُسُكْ وَلَا صَدَقَةِ. So people won't even know how to fast. Don't even know what fasting is. Don't even know what salat is. Salat, what is salat? You go in the Muslim world, the average Muslim child doesn't understand what La ilaha illallah means. Just kalima, just word that comes off of their tongue. Doesn't know how to pray, doesn't know how to fast. Sadaqah, what's that? Nusuk, the rites of Hajj. The average Muslim right now, if you were to ask them, what are the arkan of salah? They don't know. The most important aspects of the prayer. What is the wajibat of salah? Don't know. What are the pillars of Hajj? Everyone saving their money to go make Hajj. What are the pillars of Hajj? The main core aspects of Hajj that without it, your Hajj is incomplete. What are the pillars of Hajj? And these are acts of ibadah. These are not, it's not like zakat where, if you don't have the money, you don't necessarily qualify. So, the average Muslim doesn't necessarily need to know all of the ins and outs, the nisab, all of the ins and outs of zakat, especially if you don't even qualify for zakat. But ibad salah, this is something that we do 5 times a day, a bare minimum. You should know the pillars of the salah. You should know the wajibat of salah. You should know the things, nawaqid as-salah. You should know the things that invalidate your salah. These are basic. Fasting, Ramadan is coming upon us very quickly. And you'll have Muslims, wallah al-azim. I remember being the imam of the masjid, and we're in the second day of Ramadan, and I get a phone call in my office. Did Ramadan start yet? It's like, subhanAllah. But you know when the Super Bowl is, right? You know when the playoffs are, right? We know those things. But a day, 2 days into Ramadan, we'll call the Imam's office and say, did Ramadan start yet? Was the moon sighted? Yeah, Habibi, the moon was sighted 2 days ago. But here we are. He said until people won't know what fasting is, what salat is, what the rites of Hajj is, what is sadaqah. He said, وَلَا يُسْرَى عَلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ فِي اللَّيْلَةِ. And the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be removed from the earth in one night. Can you imagine waking up and no one remembers an ayah from the Quran? The Quran will be removed from the earth. حَتَّى لَا يَبْقَى فِي أَرْضِهِ ayah. Not even one ayah from the Quran left in the earth. We have reciters, hufad al-Quran now during Ramadan who read from the Mus'haf. Wallah al-Azim, I kid you not. Mus'haf in front of them, and they're standing in front of them. Why do we need to bring a qari from Egypt or from Morocco, from wherever, to come to America and leave the congregation in salah and read from the Mus'haf? We can do that here. But this shows the ihtimam, the concentration and the concern for the Quran is beginning to dwindle. Our children, many of our children who grow up in Duksi and Tawheed al-Quran and other places where they learn only to grow up and to become adults, and the Quran means absolutely nothing to them. The same tongue that they use to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same tongue that they use to yudakhin, to smoke a cigarette. You put a cigarette in your mouth, the same mouth that you use to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many of our children have girlfriends and boyfriends, and you go and you kiss someone, you put your lips on someone, the same lips that you use to recite the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, how? How? There's no ihtiram, there's no tawqir, there's no respect for the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah removes it. When we don't respect the sha'airillah, those things that symbolize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes it from us. There's no barakah in it. As one of the prophets Allah mentioned in the Quran, إِنَّ قَوْمِي اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. That indeed my people have abandoned this Quran. So the Quran will be removed from the earth until there will not be one ayat left. وَتَبْقَى طَوَائِفْ مِنَ النَّاسِ. And there will be, just groups of people, small little groups of people here and there, elderly, Jews, kabir sin, and they will say that our parents used to say this word, La ilaha illallah. We don't really know what it means, but we say it. وَهَا نَحْنُ ذَا الْيَوْمِ. And here we are today, many of our children, born and raised Muslim, who have no clue what La ilaha illallah means, but they say Assalamu alaikum, La ilaha illallah, subhanallah. They utter these statements because they hear their parents saying it and they don't even know what it means. We say Allahu Akbar, right? Which means Allah is the greatest. But we put everything else in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نُقَدِّمْ كُلَّ الشَّيْء فِي الدُّنْيَا عَلَى اللَّهِ جَلَ وَعَلَى ثُمَّ نَقُولُ Allahu Akbar. We put everything in front of God, and then we have the audacity to say Allahu Akbar. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was Akbar, if Allah was the greatest, نُقَدِّمْ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْء. We give Allah precedence over everything. We give God precedence over everything. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. First ayat in Surah Al-Hujurat. O you who believe, do not put yourselves forward before Allah and His Messenger. Allah and His Messenger come first. But we have children who utter Allahu Akbar. Adults who utter Allahu Akbar. وَنُؤَخِّرُ الصَّلَاةِ وَنُقَدِّمَ الشُّغْلِ. نقدم الشغل. نستيقظ وقت الشغل. ونتأخر عن صلاة الفجر. ثم نقول والله أكبر. إيش كلام هذا? We say Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, and we're on time for work, but we're late for Salatul Fajr. What Allahu Akbar is that? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Akbar, if Allah is the greatest, He is the greatest in every aspect of our life. Allahu Akbar fi kulli shay. ما فقط في كلام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Akbar fi kulli shay. In everything that we do, Allah is the greatest. نقدمه على كل شيء. We give precedence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over everything. And so Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he gave the same observation when he said, يوشك أن يأتي على الناس زمان لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه ولا يبقى من القرآن إلا رسمه مساجدهم عامرة وهي خراب من الهدى علماؤهم الشر من تحت أديم السماء منهم تخرج الفتنة وإليهم تعود. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that perhaps there's going to come a time when the only thing that will be left of Islam is the name. بس يوشك أن يأتي على الناس زمان لا يبقى من الإسلام إلا اسمه. That perhaps there's going to come a time when the only thing that will be left of Islam is just a name. I'm Muslim. My name is Khalid. My name is Muhammad. My name is Abdullah. That's the only thing Muslim about you is your name. Nothing else. The only thing left of Islam is the name. And the only thing that will be left of the Quran, illa rasmuhu, is the words in the that is in between the mushaf, just the words. But it doesn't mean anything. That our masajid, our masajid will be occupied, will be full with people, decorated, beautiful, mashallah. وَهِيَ خَرَابٌ مِنَ الْهُدَى. But there's no guidance going on in the masajid. No guidance. No halaqat, al-ilm. No, nothing. Just a box, 4 walls where we come in and we perform like we're Muslim. Go through the mechanical movements of salah. The masajid will be occupied, but they will be kharabun min al-huda. No guidance whatsoever. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he went out to the marketplace and he said to the people in the souk, he said, Antum hahuna, you guys are here. Wa mirath al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tuza' fil masjid. And the inheritance of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is being distributed in the masjid. Everyone began to close their markets, close up their shops, and they rushed to the masjid. Only to find halaqat al-ilm. They go back to the souk and they said to Abu Hurairah, you told us to go to the masjid. Mirath al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is being passed out in the masjid. Abu Hurairah said, what did you find when you entered the masjid? They said, we found halaqat al-ilm. He said, وَذَاكَ مِرَاث النَّبُوَّةِ فَإِنَّ النَّبِيِّ صلى الله عليه وسلم لم يورث دينارا ولا درهم إنما ورث العلم. But he said, what you saw of the circles of knowledge in the masjid was the mirath al-nubuwah. It was the inheritance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophets don't leave behind dinar or dirham. They don't leave behind money. They leave behind knowledge. فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذَ بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ. And whoever takes a portion of that has taken a great portion of the prophethood that was left behind. But you go to many masajid today, no halaqat al-ilm. Only older people in the masjid. You walk into a masjid and only older people there. Where's the shabab? Where's the youth? That's a problem. That is the number one indicator to me when I step into a community and I see nothing but elderly people. None of the shabab are there. That's a problem. He said that the ulama, the scholars during that time will be the worst of people. From them will emerge great fitna, and to them it will return. And this tells you, يعني al-jaza'u min jins al-amal. As there's a concept in Islam that your reward, your compensation will be based upon your actions. That if you start fitna, eventually it will return back to you. Minhum takhruju al-fitna wa ilayhim ta'ud. You start fitna, eventually it's going to come back and consume you and destroy you. And although this is the reality prophesied by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are always going to be those who, despite these changes, despite all of this that's happening, they will manage to see serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an honor. Serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an honor. There's some people who go with the flow. If Muslims look like they are on the rise, then we want to be Muslim. And when Muslims seem like we're not doing too well, then we want to, play both sides of the fence. But no matter what, you have people who see serving God as an honor regardless. We want to be Muslim. You have some people who want to be Muslim when they see being Muslim is popular, it's cool. And then when it seems like it's not cool, then we want to resort back to being, whatever's popular and whatever's cool. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said to some of the tabi'un, he said, "La takunu im'a." Don't be followers. And ahsan an-nas ahsant. That if people do good, then you want to do good. Wa in asa'u asat. And if people do bad or evil, then you do evil. He said, أَلَا يُوَطِّنُ أَحْدَكُمْ نَفْسَهُ إِنْ كَفَرَ النَّاسِ أَنْ لَا يَكْفُرُ. He said, condition yourself to be such that if the whole entire world decides to disbelieve, you are not going to disbelieve. وَطِّن نَفْسَكَ. If the whole entire world decided to become disbelievers in God, I am not going to disbelieve. I stand firm on what I believe. Not wavering from here to there, as the Prophet ﷺ said, أَتْبَعْ كُلِّ نَائِقٍ, following the wind wherever it blows. And there are some who will manage to see serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as an honor. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, despite the tumultuous times that they endured, despite being removed from their city of Mecca, despite the torture, the persecution, and all that they endured, they still thought that being Muslim was the best thing that ever happened to them. Wallahu al-azim. Despite all that was going on, you hear Muslims talk now and they say, oh, you see what's going on in Syria. Oh, you see what's happening in Saudi Arabia. Oh, you see what's happening here. I don't know, right? As if like the world is closing in on Islam and there's, we might as well, Islamophobia in America, right? Maybe we should just take off our hijab. Maybe we should just shave our beard and just blend in, so I don't, subhanAllah. When has this ever been the narrative of Islam? When? The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum endured so much, and they still thought, despite all that they went through, they still thought that being Muslim was the best thing that ever happened to them. Hudayfa said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, kunna fi jahiliyatin wa shar, wa ja'ana Allahu bihadhil khair. He said, O Messenger of Allah, we were in the pre-Islamic state of ignorance and evil, and then Allah brought us this good of Islam. They still thought being Muslim was the best thing that ever happened to them, despite what was going on. The wife of the Prophet ﷺ, Habiba, she converted to Islam while her father, Abu Sufyan ibn Harb, was a mushrik at the time. He later on converted to Islam, but at this particular incident, he was still a non-Muslim. He went to go visit her one day. زارها فقال والله لقد أصابك يا ابنتي من بعد شر. When he went to go visit his daughter and he wanted to sit on the chair where the Prophet ﷺ sits in his house, Habiba told him, you can't sit there. That is the seat of my husband. And Abu Sufyan turned to his daughter and he said, Wallahi laqad asabaki ba'di ya ibnati shar. He said, oh my daughter, such an evil thing has happened to you since you left my home and you married this man and you embraced this religion. Something evil has happened to you. She said, قالت لا والله قال بل خير هداني الله سبحانه وتعالى إلى الإسلام. She said, no, my father, nothing but good has happened to me. Allah guided me to Islam. They saw becoming Muslim as a favor, as an honor, as a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was an honor to serve God, despite what was going on around me. It's an honor to call yourself a Muslim. Someone when you say that you're Muslim, you are basically identifying yourself through your submission to God. So when you lead with, I am a Muslim, basically you're telling the person that my entire life is centered around serving God. It is an honor to be chosen by God to serve Him, despite what's going on. Amr ibn al-As, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, لما حضره الموت, he was on his deathbed, and he began to contemplate and reflect that moment of clarity that we usually have when we're, moments away from death, right? Amr ibn al-As, he said, إن أفضل ما نعد يعني من أعمالنا Shahadata an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. He said, the best thing that I have ever done in my life was utter the Shahada, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. أفضل ما نعد من أعمالنا يعني في حياتنا الشهادة أن لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. He said, وَكُنْتُ عَلَى أَطْبَاقٍ ثَلَاثَةٍ. And my life was broken down into 3 stages. And he began to explain his life. He said, I started off and there was no man in the city of Mecca that I hated more than Muhammad. And if I could have got close enough to kill him, I would have killed him. And then he begins to explain his interaction with the Prophet ﷺ and the moment that Islam entered into his heart. And he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he wanted to take his shahada. And he told the Prophet ﷺ, stick out your hand, let me give you bay'ah. The Prophet stuck out his hand and Amr ibn al-As put his hand behind his back. And the Prophet said, well, why did you tell me to stick my hand out and you put yours behind your back? He said, Inni ashtarit, I want to become Muslim, but I want to give a condition. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Tashtarit mada. What do you want to make conditional? He said, An yaghfir li Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, I want to become Muslim, but with the condition that God forgives me for everything that I did in my life. And the Prophet ﷺ smiled and he said, Ya Amr, ala ta'alam anna al-Islam yajubbu ma qablahu. He said, don't you know, Amr, that Islam wipes away all the sins that you did before? Allahu Akbar. You don't have to make this a conditional. It's a given. Allah is going to forgive you for everything that passed. He said, ala ta'alam ya Amr anna al-Islam yajubbu ma qablahu. Don't you know that Islam wipes away all of the sins that you did before? That's a given. You don't have to make a condition. And he said, Wallahi, there was no man in the city of Mecca that I loved more than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even more than myself. SubhanAllah. He said, on the first level, if I had died, لو مت على هذه الحالة لكنت من أصحاب النار. He said, if I would have died in my first stage, when I hated him, then I would have surely been from the people of the hellfire. And after he became Muslim, he said, وَلَوْ مُتُّ عَلَى هَذِهِ الْحَالَةِ أَرْجُو أَنْ أَكُونَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. I hope that I will be from the people of Jannah. I hope. These people, they didn't care what was going on around them. The most important thing to them was the fact that that God had selected them to serve Him. And that was an honor. I am honored that God would choose me out of everyone else in the world to serve Him. That is an honor. And many of us, we look at serving God as we're doing Him a favor. God has to be lucky that I'm worshiping Him, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the Bedouin Arabs, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا قُلْ لَا تَمُنُّوا عَلَيَّ إِسْلَامَكُمْ بَلِ اللَّهِ يَمُنُّ عَلَيْكُمْ أَنْ هَدَاكُمْ لِلْإِيمَانِ. That the Arabs, they used to say that, it's a favor to you, O Muhammad, that we're Muslim. You should be glad that we're Muslim, that we're amongst your ranks. And Allah told the Prophet ﷺ to say to them, لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم. Don't consider your Islam a favor to me. Rather, it is a favor to you that Allah guided you to Iman. Guided you. It's an honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected you. If in fact you are true believers. We're not doing God some type of favor because we decide to go through some mechanical motions of ruku' and sujood and jalsa. Most of the time without any khushu'. Most of the time without any consciousness. You think that we're doing God a favor because we go into ruku' and sujood and we prostrate a few times in our salah and our minds are somewhere else. Anta fi wadi was salatuka fi wadin. You're in one valley, your prayer is in a whole nother valley. You think that prayer means something, that you're doing God a favor? It would be a different story maybe if you were praying and you, mashallah, you were concentrating on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. None of the dunya meant anything to you. You go into your prayer and it's as if you're standing right in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how many of us actually pray like that? Every salat, every prayer that we make, is filled with God consciousness to the highest level, to the highest degree. Many of us, we just go through the motions of the salah. Just the motions. And then we'll turn around and act like we're doing Islam a favor. We're doing God some type of favor. SubhanAllah. No, God is doing you a favor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is honoring you because He gave you an opportunity to prove that you are grateful for the life that He gave you. He gave you life, gave you an opportunity to prove your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a favor. So we are part of something great, something so powerful, and world leaders are scrambling trying to figure out how to dismantle Islam. They come from this angle, they come from that angle, they run in with the terrorist thing. They've gotten a long run with that. They've done movies, they've done, sitcoms, they've done comedies, they've done so much to try to discredit the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and yet Muslims are still growing, Islam is still growing, and it's not going anywhere. And they're strategizing, trying to figure out what is the next strategy we can use to get rid of this religion and to get rid of these people. And you even have Muslims that are now joined in on the strategizing of how to get rid of Islam. We'll use Muslims to get rid of Islam. And it is difficult for those of us who really want to practice Islam. It's difficult. But we have to be patient and understand that victory is for Islam. You can't stop. This is something that God put here, and He will by all means protect it. And we are protected. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, يُوشِكُ وَيَّتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٌ الصَّابِرُ فِيهِ عَلَى دِينِهِ كَالْقَابِضِ عَلَى جَمْرٍ. He said, perhaps there's going to come a time upon the people, upon Muslims, where holding on to your religion will be as difficult as a person trying to hold a hot piece of coal in their hand. It will get difficult, it will get tough, but it's still an honor, and we have to plant our feet firmly and realize that this is the territory. This comes with the territory. And one of the ways to hold on to Islam, of course, is through unity. There's more barakah in our unity than it is in our disunity. When we divide and separate, there's no barakah in that. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, ما تحبون ما تكرهون في الاجتماع خير مما تحبون في الفرقة. What you hate united is better than what you love separated and divided. There's no barakah in being divided. Some of the Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ and they said, Ya Rasulullah, inna na'kul wa nashba'. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فلعلكم تفترقون. قالوا نعم. قال فاجتمعوا على طعامكم واذكروا اسم الله عليه يبارك لكم فيه. The Sahaba, they came to the Prophet ﷺ, they said, Ya Rasulullah, listen to this, so profound. The Prophet ﷺ, he has such a simplistic way of solving some of the greatest problems in the world, right? So simple, right? The simplest ways of solving problems, right? Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she described him, she said, مَا خُيِّرَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ بَيْنَ أَمْرَيْنِ لَاخْتَارَ أَيْسَرَهُمَا مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ فِيهِ إِثْمٌ. That the Prophet ﷺ was never confronted with two situations, except he always chose the easiest of the two. So as long as there was no sin involved, he always chose the easiest of the two. Very simple life. We make our lives so difficult. The Prophet ﷺ woke up one day and he went to his wife Aisha and he said, "Hal indakum ta'am? Do you have? Is there any food in the pantry? We have anything to eat?" Aisha said, "Ma indana ta'am." We don't have any food. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Idhan ana sa'im." Simple. He said, "Well, then I'm going to fast." He said, "Do we have any food?" She said, "No, we don't have any food." He said, well, I'm going to fast. Simple. We make preparations that when things don't go our way, we find another way to deal with it. That is called being resilient. We just find another way to deal with it. We don't go into crisis mode. Oh my God, I don't have any food. SubhanAllah, what am I going to do? Right? This is brothers who come home from prison and resort back to selling drugs because I got to feed my family. Dude, all the years you were locked up, your family was fed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa ar-razzaq, dhu quwwatil mateen. Allah is the provider. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider. You are not the provider. You are the facilitator. Allah is ar-razzaq. You are not ar-razzaq. You do not provide for your family. Allah provides for you, and in turn you provide for your family. And even in your absence, because you are absent doesn't mean your family is not going to be provided for. Right? Hajar told Ibrahim when he left her in the middle of Mecca with no sustenance other than a water skin and a few dates. And Hajar said, Aina tadhhab ya Ibrahim? Where you going? You going to leave us here? She said, Allahu amaraka bihadha. Did Allah tell you to leave us here? And Ibrahim nodded. She said, Idhhab idhan, fa inna Allah la yudayya'na. She said, go. Allah will never abandon us. You leave, you go to jail, whatever happened, you think that your provision for your family stops because you are not there, because you don't have the money to provide. Wallah al-azim, Allah provides. And you never have to resort to what is haram to provide for your family. That is a lack of faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ability to provide. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will make a way out of every difficulty and will provide for you in ways which you could never imagine. Allah will provide for you in ways in which you could never imagine. This whole idea, I got to go back and sell drugs because I got to feed my family. Kalam fadi, batil. Min abtal al-batil. I have to go do something haram to go feed my family. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, they came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, inna na'kul wa la nashba'. We eat, but we're not being full. We're eating, but our food is not satiating. It doesn't fill us up. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَفْتَرِقُونَ. He said, perhaps you eat separately. Perhaps you eat separately. قالوا نعم. They say, yes. He already knew what the problem was. ذكي جدا. He already knew what the problem was. He said, perhaps you're eating separately. And this is, mufti, alim, imam. When people come to you with questions, you have to already know where it's coming from. You got to already know the asl of the mushkila. If you just answer questions based upon how it's coming, and subhanAllah, we've seen that for so many years with scholars in Saudi Arabia and other places. People go to them, Ya Shaykh, عندنا في بلدنا فلان يقولون كذا يقول هذا ضال مضل هذا حزبي هذا فلان فلان فلان. هذا كلام فاضي. This type of stuff have destroyed our communities. You have individuals that'll go and say, Ya Shaykh, Ya Allama, Ya Fulan, Ya Fulan. We have a brother in our community, an imam, he says this, he says that. And then without even no taftish, he doesn't even look deeper, he doesn't analyze it, doesn't look deeper into the situation. And he just utters a word. He's dalun mudil, he's astray. Stay away from him. La ta'khudhu al-ilm anhu. Don't take any knowledge from him. He's the imam of the masjid. The whole entire community is centered around this individual. And with one kalima, you destroy an entire community. Subhanallah. You have to be dhaki. You have to be smart and understand where is it coming from. Ask the person questions. Man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, inna nahnu qawmun naraka bil bahr, afanatawadda bima al bahr. He said, O Messenger of Allah, we are fishermen. We spend a lot of time on the sea. And when we take water with us, fresh water with us, we get thirsty and we drink it and we don't have enough water for wudu. Can we make wudu with the water in the ocean? How did the Prophet ﷺ respond? Did he say, yes, you're Jews, you can make wudu with the water in the ocean? He said, طهور ماؤه وحل ميتته. He said, you can make wudu with the water in the ocean, and the fish and what lives in the ocean is also halal for you. Why did he respond with that additional response? Because he knew that if they're asking whether or not they can make wudu with the water in the ocean, then they obviously don't know that the fish in the water or the animals that live in the sea are also halal as well. Smart. He understood. Whereas today, we just let any random, Muhammad, Bakr, or Zaid come to us, ask us a question. We don't understand where the question is coming from. We respond to the question, and then we destroy an entire community. And then we have the audacity to call these people alama, Sheikh Fulan or Fulan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا تفسدوا في الأرض بعد إصلاحها. Don't cause corruption in the earth after it has been rectified. We work hard in this country to build communities, to get our children in the masajid, to keep our communities, maintain our communities with the little bit of resources that we have, to allow someone sitting on a chair in a whole entire another country, don't understand our plight, don't understand our condition, don't understand our challenges, and just utter a word, one kalima, and destroy our entire community. Wallah al-Azim, we can't allow that to happen anymore. Look at we lost so many of our children due to this fitna, due to this stuff. We've lost many children. Generations of Islam we've lost because of this. The Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ, they said, Ya Rasulullah, inna na'kul wa la nashba'. We eat, but we don't become full. The Prophet already knew what the problem was. He said, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَفْتَرِكُونَ. He said, perhaps you eat separately. قالوا نعم. They said, yes. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَاجْتَمِعُوا عَلَى طَعَامِكُمْ. He said, eat together. Eat together. وَاذْكُرُ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ يُبَارِكَ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى لَكُمْ فِيهِ. Mention the name of Allah over your food, and Allah will place barakah in your food. So I'm saying to us as communities, اجتمعوا على طعامكم, gather together, eat together. واذكر اسم الله عليه, and remember the name of Allah. ويبارك الله لكم فيه, and Allah will bless us. That is part of our solution, to be united. What you hate united is better than what you love separated. Even in the salat, the Prophet ﷺ said, أفضل من salat, that salatul jama'ah, أفضل من salat al-fadhi, ب27 درجة. That praying with a community, praying with the jama'ah is better than praying by yourself by 27 times. Your salat is 27 times, has 27 times more merit when you pray with others than when you stay at home and pray by yourself. Brothers and sisters, come out of your homes. Come out of your homes. Pray in the masajid. This is the way we network, the way we learn who one another is. We learn how to do business with one another. We're mingling with one another. Our children see that and then they follow suit. And this is the way we begin to reconstruct our communities. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Again, Masjid Tawheed Islamic Center, thank you for inviting me. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala place barakah, much barakah in what you guys are doing here. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يرد شبابنا إلى المساجد رد جميلة. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return our shabab, return our young people to the masajid ردا جميلة, with a beautiful return. Allahumma رد شبابنا إلى الإسلام ردا جميلة. Oh Allah, return our youth to Islam with a beautiful return. فإنه ولي ذلك وقادر على كل شيء. Now, if there were any questions, he had his hand. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How you doing?
Did Muslim America, 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 did Muslim
To register? The wife. The wife in Islam. The wife does not take the husband's last name, right? This system. Let me share something with you. This system of a woman marrying a man and taking the last name of the man. This system was part of the British Empire, where women were seen as inheritance. You inherit a woman. And they were actually doing it in pre-Islamic Arab culture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, and la yarithu nisa kurha, do not inherit women against their will. That if a man died, he was married to a woman and he died, then his brother would automatically inherit his wife. Tuck her away in a home somewhere, and whatever property she had, all of that became his. In Islam, Muslim women are not property. So when a Muslim woman marries a man, she does not take his last name. She is not his property. You follow me? She keeps her last name, which is the name of her family and where she comes from. So when people do this, it's pretty much out of ignorance, or they're just following the trend of the society that we live in. And any woman who does that, she should consider herself worth more than that. To marry a man and to identify yourself through his lineage, totally dismissing your own lineage as if it doesn't mean anything, is as if we are resorting back to that mentality where women are now inherited, their property. A woman is not a man's property. She is his wife, his counterpart, his partner to help him get to Jannah, not his property. Wallahu a'lam.
To Islam and saying Shahadat, and in Islam, his past sins are forgiven.
Yes.
He became. So why not being a Muslim, when we commit sins and do bad things, but less than the kafir and mushrik, turns into Islam.
Yes.
And we do the same thing. Why this rule not applying on us? Or it must be, why not?
Okay, good question. I always have to prepare when you ask questions, because you ask the most challenging questions. He said, well, if a non-Muslim converts to Islam, and when they utter the Shahada, they're pretty much forgiven for all of their past sins. Why doesn't that apply to us, even now that as we're Muslim? Once we become Muslim, why can't we just utter the Shahada and, be forgiven for all of our sins? Why is this something that is a luxury of someone who comes into Islam? Or what about those who are already Muslim? That is an incentive for a person to become Muslim. That some people are looking for forgiveness, and you tell them, hey, if you embrace Islam, you accept Islam as your faith, then you will be forgiven for every... When you tell someone that, they're more likely to kind of, peek a little bit deeper into Islam. It's an incentive. But for those of us who have already converted to Islam, we have other ways to be forgiven for our sins. There's tons of ways. Let's mention some of them. What are some of the ways that you can just wipe your whole slate clean? Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man hajja wa lam yarfuth wa lam yafsuq, raja'a kayomi waladathu ummu." Whoever performs Hajj and doesn't ruin his Hajj by doing something that is inappropriate or haram, then he will return home like the day his mother gave birth to him, free of sin. And some of the scholars debate on whether this is the sagha'ir or the kaba'ir. Amirruha kama ja'at. We leave the hadith just as the Prophet ﷺ said it. If you tell someone that it's, some of the scholars say this only applies to the minor sins, then you're stealing that person's ambition away. Leave the hadith as it is. The Prophet was general, leave it in general. It's mu'athir, it has more effect on you if you leave it general. Amirruha kama ja'at. Leave it as it is without interpreting it. The Prophet ﷺ said that you will come home like the day your mother gave birth to you. Tons of ways. A tawbah. Ta'ibu min adh-dhanb kaman la dhanba lah. The Prophet ﷺ said the person who sincerely repents from his sin is like the person who never committed the sin. Sincere tawbah. A tawbah nasuha, which consists of three conditions. One, al-iqla' an adh-dhanb. Stop committing the sin. And number two, an-nadba. The Prophet ﷺ said, an-nadma tawbah, to feel remorse. And number 3, to make a sound intention never to go do it again. A sincere tawbah. And sincere tawbah from a sin is as if the person never committed the sin again. So there are times doing a bad deed after you do doing a good deed after you do a bad deed. The Prophet ﷺ said, اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة حسنة تمحوها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. He said, fear Allah wherever you may be, follow up a bad deed with a good deed and it'll wipe it away. Tons of ways that we can clean our slate in Islam. So we don't necessarily need the Shahada. The Shahada is an incentive for someone who is not Muslim to actually become Muslim, that they will be forgiven for all of their sins, as the interaction between the Prophet ﷺ and Amr ibn al-As. No.
We should emphasize on, like the base, because it's always,
different ways. I actually did a lecture some time ago called The Ways to Clean Your Slate. And I actually listed a whole bunch of things that is from our religion that teaches us how we can clean our slate. We can remove all of the sins from us.
For a non-Muslim is also taken away. It's forgiven.
Say it again.
For the rights of the people.
Rights of the people.
It's also somebody turned into,
Good question. He said, what about if a person, I told you he asked the most challenging questions. What about a person who's a non-Muslim who converts to Islam, but they have sins that are related to them interacting with other human beings? Okay, they're forgiven for all of their sins between them and Allah. What if they wronged other people? They stole money from people, they beat people up. Are they forgiven for those sins as well? And we know حقوق العباد فيه شحناء فيها شحناء, that the rights of the human beings is totally different. Allah will deal with them differently than He deals with the sins of the human being between them and God. What about that? There's a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, his name is Mughira ibn Shu'bah, who converted to Islam after killing 12 people, 12 or 14 people. Yeah, he murdered some people. And he robbed them and took their stuff from them. He was traveling from Persia back to Mecca, and the Persian king gave him a gift that he felt was, a disrespect, and then gave the other people that he was traveling with good gifts. So they settled at a tree, they settled somewhere as they were journeying back, and when they went to sleep, he slit their throats, he took all of their things, and he ran to Medina and converted to Islam. He said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. He murdered them, and then he converted to Islam. Some of the tribes of the people that were murdered went to the Prophet ﷺ because they wanted retribution. You killed one of my family members. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Amma islamuhu fanaqbalu, wa amma ma akhad falasna minhu fi shay. He said, as for the Islam of Mughira, we accept his shahada, but what he took from those people, we have nothing to do with that. And the scholars say that based upon that if you have a right that you owe to someone, that you have to restore that. Now obviously if it's drug money that you owe to somebody, you're not going to go pay someone drug money. But if it means that you have drug dealers that are looking for you because you owe them, then you might want to find a way to rectify that. But just saying, hey, I'm Muslim, you can't touch me, they don't care that you're Muslim. So giving them something, maybe you're not going to give them drugs, but maybe a compensation, money that you owe them to repay them to, spare your life. Absolutely, you have to restore that. Not because you owe them money, but because self-preservation, to protect your life. Obviously, if you have a choice between being killed by someone for owing them drug money and just paying them the money that you owe them for them to leave you alone, then obviously paying them the money. And many of us found ourselves converting to Islam in those same situations. So yes, if you took things from people, if you robbed people, you were a bad business guy, you did business with people and you were, a shiesty business person, then yes, you have to restore that. And Islam does not wipe that away. And although those people are non-Muslims, Allah will compensate them for what you took for them, but you are still responsible for that. And Allahu A'lam, whether you will be held accountable in the hereafter, as we mentioned in narration before, that if you do good, as a matter of fact, there's actually a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that if the person does good as a Muslim, then they will be forgiven for everything they did before Islam and in Islam. And if they resort to the same behavior after they become Muslim, then they will be held accountable for what they did before Islam and what they do in Islam. Absolutely. So, it's important that, we make amends and we rectify situations. Some of us have broken bridges with family members, and then we convert to Islam, and then we want to come back and call these people to Islam. It's like, we never even talked for 10 years, and now you're coming back to tell me that you're Muslim? Let's start building a rapport first. Let's start with you saying sorry to me for what you did. Let's start there before you start talking to me about Islam. You understand? So, that's important to, rectify that. Let me give him an opportunity. Walaikum salam. Say it again. Is it allowed for a Muslim to say Happy New Year? This is something that comes up all of the time. The New Year doesn't necessarily signify a religion. It's not connected to any religion. It's a tahiyyah at best. It's a greeting that we say in our society, that when the New Year comes around, we say Happy New Year. And Arab culture, they say Kullu Am wa antum bi khair after the Eid. And in certain cases, other times they say, and may you be good with every year. All right? It's no different than that. Kullu Am wa antum bi khair, may you be upon good, every year. And to say to a person, Happy New Year to you, it's not a celebration, it's just a tahiyyah, it's a greeting. It's like saying good morning. And some Muslims even debate whether it's permissible to say to someone good morning. Why not? It's a tahiyyah, it's part of our culture, it's the fabric of our culture. Why? I'm not walking around telling people, Happy New Year. If someone says it to me, Happy New Year to you too. May you have a blessed year as well. What's wrong with that? What is haram with that? Someone will say, هذا تشبه بالكفار. That's a very broad statement that we're imitating the kuffar. We're imitating non-Muslims. We live in a non-Muslim society. Hello. We live in a non-Muslim society, surrounded and governed by many non-Muslim values. Is it ma'qul? Is it intelligent to think that living in a society like this, that we are not going to be affected by some of the customs and the culture of the environment that we live in? We are. We try our best. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. We try our best to create our own identity as Muslims. But let me just play out for you in real time how this looks. Someone's happy because there was a lot of death and a lot of crises in 2017. They're happy that they woke up this morning. They're happy that I'm in 2018. I made it. I lost a friend last year. I lost a mother last year. I lost a father last year, right? And I made it to 2018. They wake up this morning. They're very happy. They see you as a Muslim and they say, Happy New Year. And you say, I don't celebrate New Year's. And then they see you as a Muslim. And you're supposed to be Muslim, right? We got to think about how our interaction with the world around us makes us look. It's almost like the bank, what the bank does. You go into a bank, right? Not that as a Muslim we're taking loans. I'm just using this as an example. You don't have any credit. You go into the bank, you ask for a loan. They say, we're not going to give you a loan because you don't have any credit. You don't have any credit history. Well, it's like, we just keep going around and around because I'm not going to get a loan because I don't have credit, but I can't get credit because you won't give me a loan, right? It's almost like we do the same thing with people who are not Muslim. We condemn you for being a kafir, we condemn you for being a non-Muslim, but then we won't treat you like a human being so that you can actually inquire and look deeper into Islam so that you can become a Muslim. How do you expect people to be receptive to Islam when a person says to you, Happy New Year's to you, and you say, I don't celebrate the New Year's? Do you realize how awkward you look? And I'm just saying this is from my perspective. Laka shatnuk. You can do as you please. If you feel uncomfortable saying to someone, Happy New Year, because you believe that this is an imitation of non-believer customs or traditions. Well, I'm not an Arab. And when someone Arab says to me, Kul aam wa anta bi khair, that is a custom. I lived in Saudi Arabia for almost 10 years of my life. And that was customary. Whether it was Yom Watani, whether it was their national day, right? They have national day, right? We call ours 4th of July. In Saudi Arabia, they have Yom al-Watani. They have Citizen Day, the day that Saudi Arabia was, created. And I mean, every culture, every society has it. It's part of the norms and the customs of that environment. And people will say to you, Kulu aam wa antum bi khair. Kulu aam wa antum bi khair. It's not a dua. It's a tahiyyah. It's a greeting that the people are saying because it's part of the fabric of their traditions. I'm not an Arab. I'm not a citizen of Saudi Arabia. But I say it back to the person because I'm an American living in Saudi Arabia, and that is the custom, that is the tradition. And it doesn't conflict with my religion, it doesn't conflict with the deen. La bas. I don't see a big deal. That's just my own personal take on it. I'm not saying that's Islamic law, right? Someone can come and say, well, no, it's an imitation of the kuffar, and they can present a very beautiful argument and make you think otherwise. I'm saying from where I stand, that if someone initiates, someone says to me, Happy New Year to you too. It's not a religious tradition. I don't initiate it. I'm not walking around saying to people, Happy New Year. But if someone says it to me, I say it back to the person. It doesn't conflict with my religion. And it makes me appear as a Muslim more human, more a part of the customary fabric of the society that I live in. But when you say, I don't celebrate the New Year's, right? It almost adds to the narrative that as Muslims we're just socially awkward, we're antiquated, and we have no respect for other people's cultures, customs, and traditions. Yeah.
It's a question. I mean, you say point anyway, like if you go to all the Muslim countries now, like that's in Dubai, Pakistan, whatever, Oman, and all major Muslim countries, they all celebrate New Year. I mean, looking at Dubai last night, they have a big farmer on the Bulgar Earth.
Yes.
They are Muslim countries.
Yes. They actually have Christmas trees too.
Exactly.
Allahumma musta'an.
Yeah. So
La ilaha
I mean, even though it's happening in a Muslim country, from my point of view, as you said it's not hard to say, hey, good morning or Happy New Year. It's not like you are making a point or making a factual information, or as a Muslim, hey, Happy New Year, you are confined. I'm just saying, as you said, I agree with you because we have to look at it our part of the world as well.
Yeah.
In our part of the world, they all do that.
Well, I mean, that doesn't necessarily make it right. I mean, I understand your point. He's saying that when you go into the Muslim world, he said that everybody's celebrating New Year's. He said Dubai and other places that are so-called Muslim countries, they celebrate it. And then here we are, Americans. Americans are part of the fabric of American culture. And like we're shunning, our cultural traditions when you have the Muslim world, major Muslim countries that are, knee deep in American customs and traditions celebrating. Dubai, they celebrate. I mean, we're not saying that we're going to now say Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. We're not doing that. As long as it's not conflicting with the tenets of our faith, I personally just don't see an issue with it.
Jay,
Yeah.
Question. So, I'm just adding to the point, okay? See, a lot of people who are working class people go to their job, As a Muslim, if they don't want to say Happy Merry Christmas, as a Bible, as a Muslim, they should not accept a Christmas bonus as well. You know what I'm saying? Then why would they accept Christmas bonus from their employers, and then when they are, it's haram to say Merry Christmas, and they take the money from them?
That's an interesting point. He said that, another thing with us as Muslims that are working class Muslims, who, we receive, Christmas bonuses or New Year's bonuses or whatever the case may be. And then we'll be quick to say we don't celebrate something, but then we'll accept, the bonuses, in terms of the financial compensations and things like this. He said, there has to be a balance with that. Personally, I would think that a Christmas bonus, if they're giving you a bonus, an addition to your paycheck because of Christmas, it is not permissible for you to accept that. It's not permissible. If they are giving you that because of that, even with your paycheck, it's very serious. The money that you're using to feed your family, you want to make sure that every penny is accounted for, that it's halal. Because this is the same money that you're using to feed your family. Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was contracted by a university to do some research. And they were paying him to do research. And so sometimes he would leave and go make salat. He would give a halaqah in the masjid on the university's time. So what he would do was calculate how much time he took away from the university. And when he received his paycheck, he took the money out and put it in an envelope. When the person came to give Shaykh Uthaymeen his money, his salary, he handed the guy an envelope. The guy looked in the envelope. There was money in the envelope. He said, "What's the money for?" He said, "That is the money that I took away from you to go pray and to go, give a halaqah here. And I was on the university's time. You guys contracted me to be on your time, and I wasn't doing university work for you guys at the time that I was doing this. And I felt uncomfortable taking that money from you." You understand? And this was a time when people were very cautious about every dime they earned. I don't want anything that doesn't belong to me. During the time of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala, there was a woman who was a seamstress, and she used to sew during the day under the sunlight, and she would sew at night under the light of the moon. And obviously the quality of the clothes might not have been the same, right, due to the lighting. So she asked Imam Ahmad, "Can I sell the clothes that I sew during the morning for the same price as I sell the clothes during the night?" Imam Ahmad said, "Well, what's the difference?" She said, "Well, the clothes that I sew during the day, I'm under the light of the sun. And the clothes that I sew during the night, I'm under the light of the moon. There's a difference between the light of the sun and the light of the moon." Imam Ahmad said, "Subhanallah." Because who would have known that except her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Very careful. I don't want to take more than what I am due. And the Prophet ﷺ also prophesied that there will come a time where a person will not care where his money comes from, halal or haram, it doesn't even matter, as long as I got the money. So, we want to be careful. I don't want to scare anyone. I just want us to be cautious that if we're going to take money, that money that we're taking from our employers, right? We're going to take that money and we're going to go spend it on our families. We're going to buy food. We want to make sure that the food that we're buying is with money that was earned, rightfully earned, in a manner that is halal. Now, and last one.
Usually, Muslim to Muslim, we cannot say good morning to each other, and we cannot say.
Why?
Because we have Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, after Salam alaikum. Can you say good morning? Can you say good morning after you say Assalamu alaikum?
No. Like only in some Egyptian culture, only say Sabah al-Khair.
Sabah al-Khair. Good morning. That's the same thing.
Salam.
No. We give salam first.
Yes, so that's my problem. And then we cannot, Muslim to Muslim cannot say Happy New Year because we have a different year, different calendar year. This one point. One I don't know about the ruling, we have to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah and Ulil Amr, in Muslim countries.
Mm-hmm.
In here is a different, they are different. And for one person is different, they sell in pharmacy, opioid, is illegal, and on the street is illegal. The different kind of things, So where is it draw the line, for us here to follow the Ulil Amr, the people that control the land.
لقد سألت عن You've asked about something major. I'm going to pass that one.
So I want to ask you this one. See, I'm very good at history. Okay. So if you look at the two other countries in Europe, in Asia, or in the Middle East, they never follow Islamic calendar. Okay. All their calendars are based on January to December, right? They get paid based on those. They get holiday based on those. Right? So to add to that, there should be no differentiation. It's not a Muslim holiday.
It's a calendar year.
So basically, it's no different. Like from Shaban, all Muslims throughout the year, if they follow that, sure, well and good. But none of Muslim countries follow that. So in my personal opinion, and humble opinion, it shouldn't make a difference, into the years, like you say, good morning, happy new year. I think it's a personal choice to say it or not.
Yeah, it's a personal choice.
What calendar year should take precedence?
You can't. It's hard to. That question is very difficult. What calendar year should take precedence? Because if you are being paid, and I'm a school teacher, so I have no other choice but to follow the calendar year. You understand what I'm saying? Like, even though I'm Muslim, like we're binded by, because we live in this society, binded by the Gregorian calendar. You know what I mean? Even though as Muslims we follow the lunar calendar, we follow the Hijri calendar. And it's complicated. It's not just a one word answer.
Calendar is coming from Jesus. It's from the same Hijri. There's also tradition comes from Islam.
Yes. So maybe our social affairs and our secular affairs, we follow the Gregorian calendar, and our religious affairs, we follow the lunar calendar. Khair ala khair. Najma bain al-khairain. We're going to combine the two. Alhamdulillah. We make it easy, man. Make the religion easy. Don't make it difficult. Religion is easy, inshallah. No. I'll email you. Inshallah. Shukran, jazakumullah khair, wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.